Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have something pretty interesting here tonight. Let me get over here so I can show you this because I expect that you are going to be, gotta make myself bigger, amused. Many of you will recall this interaction.
All right.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Sergeant English with Missouri City Police Department.
How you doing?
Some ID on you?
I do. Have I done something wrong?
Nope. I need to ID you though to find out who you are.
Or
Because at this point you're a suspicious person taking video and photos of a police department. And so we want to identify who you are at this point.
Okay, for those of you that do not recall this was in Missouri City, Texas. This is then Sergeant Englishby, who is was employed there as administrative sergeant. I'll link this full video in the description for those that have not seen it. But it was an interesting interaction in that they're going to
suspicious person, is that a misdemeanor or a felony?
You're a suspicious person. We're investigating who you are while you're taking photographs of the police department.
They're going to handcuff me
Okay.
and take me
I'm just gonna tell
inside,
you what
and
I'm
then
doing. All right, I'm
what
just here.
happens
I'm
is
taking pictures of the building.
Sergeant
those
Englishby
signs
here
right there. I see you
is
guys
going
got
to
cheat
bring
sheets
the
of,
law book out
our
to
assistant
read me
chiefs, I
the
guess
law.
they are. Yes, but
Let me roll up here, see if I can get a little further along here. This is the usual banter, so you don't need to see it. All right, at this point I am in cuffs. They take me inside. Okay. Here he comes.
Person commits an offense if he intentionally refuses to give his name, residence, address, and date of birth to a peace officer who has lawfully arrested the person and requested the information.
3802. You commit an offense if you refuse to give your name and identifying information to a police officer that has lawfully arrested you. Not detained you, lawfully arrested you. And he's going to read the other part too for those of you that are unaware of 3802, so you'll get to hear it here.
A person commits an offense if he intentionally gives a false or fictitious name, residence, address, or date of birth to a peace officer who has lawfully arrested the person or lawfully detained the person. So, there's
He threw in the part about lawfully detained. It does not exist in the code, and I know that. And he gets upset.
the statute with the full requirements. That's all we need is your name and date of birth, then you're released from detention, and you're on your way.
I'm engaged in a constitutionally protected activity. You cannot criminalize a constitutionally protected activity
Sir,
for the purpose of
As
detaining.
far as a field investigation, a police investigation, we are justified in identifying who you are.
Okay,
And
I'll
that's
tell you
what
what.
we're basing this on.
I'll tell you what I just told you. Okay? Bring the chief or one of the assistant chiefs out here.
All right, and let me get over here to the part where the chief comes out, the assistant chief. Here we go, I went too far.
Good, but you're not going to have a good day.
Why is that?
And who might you be?
I'm the assistant chief.
He's one of the assistant chiefs.
I'm not resisting in any way, shape, or fashion.
I never said it.
Okay.
Not one time did I say that.
Can you just not taking pictures? Is that what you're doing?
Standing on a public sidewalk,
I'm aware of that. I'm just asking you a question. You're
taking photographs of anything I can see from the public street.
Have a nice day.
Oh, no. You wanted my information? Where's that other gentleman?
Who?
The other guy.
The one that put the cuffs on me.
Are you just freelance? Are you just freelance or are you doing? Oh, okay. Okay. Have a nice
Oh,
day.
no, keep it.
Okay.
You're going to want it.
Okay.
Yeah, at that point I wanted them to know who I was. So, all right, so here's where it gets interesting. So, Sergeant Englishby, here, let me turn this off so you guys can actually see me. Sergeant Englishby, about 6 months later, resigned from the department, took his retirement. And the thing that was funny about this incident is, above and beyond the fact that he brought the law book out, read it, and knew he screwed up. Because when he went in there to get the assistant chief that you saw, there's another assistant chief his name is Jemison, who is now the chief of police at Prairie View A&M, northwest of Houston. But we'll get to that in just a minute. He went in there and told the chief he screwed up. He knew he screwed up. And so he sent this chief out to clean up his mess, basically, rather than come back out, take the cuffs off, and apologize himself. Now, I made a complaint with Chief Jemison, Assistant Chief Jemison at the time, and I was favorably impressed with Chief Jemison. I don't know a lot more about that department, but I believe that Chief Jemison was a good guy and was interested in doing the right thing, and they fixed the problem. They generated training, and which is all you can really ask for. As far as I was concerned, that was the end of the incident. Well, what I didn't know was that Englishby and the chief that you just saw in this video began to conspire and dig and look for ways to charge me with something. Justin Pulliam, you guys know who that is. If you don't, there's a link to his channel in the description as well. Go over there and look at what he does. He does open record stuff, and he pulled, here we are 2 years later. This happened in 2017. Here we are 2 years later. He pulled the records on everything that happened, including emails. And he got the emails between Englishby and the assistant chief where, they are conspiring to try to find something to charge me with. Anything. And I mean, they were reaching, grabbing for straws for something to get me for. And Justin has that video on his channel. You can go over there and look at that. And what's really funny is that Englishby's, when you looked at Englishby's Facebook, his hobby is public photography. You can't make this stuff up. That whole situation was so bizarre that it just blew my mind. The city initially claimed they had done no wrong, and they were getting hammered with phone calls and emails. And so I actually reached out to their PIO and said, look, let me help you here. I'm going to help you write the press release for this, because you're denying stuff is just upsetting people more. So I did. I assisted them with writing the press release, and I did a video when I went back to do the IED complaint, and I was satisfied at that point. So 6-7 months later, Englishby takes retirement, moves to Austin. And I was aware of it. Chief Jemison took a position, like I said, with A&M up at Prairie View. And that was pretty much the end of it. So recently there are some things going on up in the Prairie View area with some law enforcement personnel that are just doing wrong. And I've been digging into that. You guys haven't seen anything on it because there's a lot of things that I do, a lot of digging that I do, some undercover work that I do that you don't see. In the course of what I was doing up there, in the course of my investigation, I had reason to interact with now Chief Jemison up there at Prairie View A&M. Now, I had also heard through the grapevine that Englishby had gone to work up there, and I didn't think too much of it. But I did let Chief Jemison know that I had been working in the area up there. It was a cordial contact, cordial conversations. Actually, there were several conversations. And I asked him about Englishby and how things were going, and he spoke highly of Englishby, which he had spoken highly of him before. I have to wonder if he's aware that Englishby was plotting with the other assistant chief, trying to dig up stuff to charge me for. I mean, that's just spiteful. Now, I typically don't work on college campuses. Um, there's really not a lot there as far as law enforcement. Most of these departments are very small, and they work for the students. They usually have pretty good relationships with the students, and so they're not going to find a lot of wrongdoing, and so there's nothing to do, you know. Um, Believe me, if I had somebody report to me that some department was beating kids and doing all that, I'd be right in the middle of their butts. But I don't have that. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've ever had that from any um, institution of higher learning. Uh, I honestly can say I've never had that. I have had like school district police that are bad, but I've never had a college campus police force that was known to be violent or known to wrongly arrest people. So this brings up something interesting. Of course, Chief Jimison mentioned that I had been working in the Prairie View city area. Um, Actually, I was working more in the county, but that's not, we're not going to argue the point. So, what do you think Englishby did? Englishby generates this officer awareness bulletin on me. He put out a bolo. Be on the lookout. Um, and here's what it says. And then it went to the chief for approval to send it out. And it says, officers and sworn personnel, this is who it's intended to get. UPD, that's the University PD, has obtained information. The following individual has been working in the area of PVAMU, Prairie View A&M University, which is at, I have not. Uh, I've been in the city of Prairie View, but as I said, more than anything else, I've been out in the county. Okay. And is planning to attend homecoming. That's not true. They have an event that is off campus in the county that I have been watching. I have been out to it, working undercover, which is really interesting, and got a lot of information on the incident that I was working. Okay, but let's go back to this. Planning to attend homecoming, prompting this notice. If you come in contact with him, please maintain a polite and professional demeanor and adhere to department policies and procedures, as well as state and federal laws. Furthermore, if you encounter him or individuals working with him, request a supervisor to your location before taking enforcement action, should the chance meeting potentially warrant such action. Basically what they're saying is, if I show up, get help. Get somebody that knows what they're doing. Don't arrest him. For whatever reason. Now, the whole point of what I do is that I obey the law at all times. That is the whole point of what I do. Okay? And then it gives name, and I don't know about Baycliff, Texas. Affiliation, News Now Houston. Purpose, First Amendment audits. Locations, public spaces associated with police departments, federal buildings, refineries, and other high-profile venues. Target audience, police officers, federal agents, security guards, and other employees associated with the above-mentioned locations. Motive, look at this. Bait individuals into violating First Amendment rights through continuous failure to identify. This dude is clueless. Absolutely clueless. And I really thought that, you know, when this original incident happened, that he would have educated himself on what I do and what are our First Amendment rights, etc., so forth. Apparently, he didn't do that because I am baiting police. And it's not continuous failure to ID. It's going to be whatever applicable law is, I'm testing. I've tested Second Amendment open carry stuff. I've tested Second Amendment concealed carry stuff. I've tested First Amendment stuff. I've tested Fifth Amendment stuff. Some people just don't learn. So I believe, it's my opinion, that, he is looking for an opportunity that he didn't have the first time. He's looking for something here to arrest me for. See, here we go. Picture attached above. Exception. Any individual on campus is required to identify him or herself when asked. Ed Code Chapter 51. Now, he expects that they're going to take enforcement action against me if I don't identify myself. Let's have a look at the Texas Education Code. I've dealt with this before. Some of you may remember when the University of Texas police arrested me for failure to ID. They arrested me on behalf of the Secret Service and released me a very short time later. But let's look at Education Code Chapter 51. It's actually 51.209. Unauthorized persons, refusal of entry, and ejection and identification. And this, this just defines what a school is. The governing board. Here we go. Private independent institution, higher learning, a government's board, authorized representative may refuse to allow persons having no legitimate business to enter on property under the board's control, and may eject any undesirable person from the property on the person's refusal to leave peaceably on request. Identification may be required of any person on the property, and the person must provide that identification on request. So, what happens if you don't identify? If I want to guess, there's no criminal penalty. There is no criminal penalty for refusing to identify yourself while on their property. Now, what they will do is ask you to leave or tell you to leave, and if you refuse, then you're trespassing. That's different. All right? But there is no criminal penalty for refusing to identify yourself. 3802 still applies, blah, blah, blah. But it appears to me that Sergeant Englishby, he is now a administrative lieutenant up there, is looking for an opportunity to get even. It's kind of childish, but whatever. And he's going to do that by, I guess, trying to arrest me for failure to ID. Tell you what, I know Englishby's watching this, or will watch this, because I'm going to email it to him. Tell you what I'm going to do. Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. I'm going to come out there, and I'll make sure that you know when I'm in the area, and you are welcome to come and try to ID me. Challenge accepted. I will be seeing you very, very soon. Guys, y'all be safe. I hope this video was entertaining, and I will see you again soon.